e tentar fazer um resumo mais didático a seguir. Obrigado. A dinamização homeopática é uma hipótese.
Hello, welcome to Homeopathic Dynamization and Hypothesis by Franklin Silva. The subject homeopathic dynamization has always interested him. In 1995, he gathered in a document the scientific methodology classes that he taught at the 80th Homeopathy Training Course in Homeopathic Association of Pernambuco, Brazil. In that moment, given the lack of understanding about dynamization concept, he pretentiously decided to take the risk of proposing a dynamization hypothesis, using concepts of resonance, system oscillator, Doppler effect, quantum mechanics, etc. Now, in the year of 2020 and under quarantine, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, he found time to reread everything and make a more didactic summary. That's what follows in the next 40 slides. Homeopathic dynamization, a hypothesis. Formulated by Franklin Dário da Silva, physician by UFPE, Federal University of Pernambuco, in 1983, and homeopath at the IHP in 1988, at Recife, Pernambuco, Brazil. Topics. We're gonna start with introduction, then move to primary hypothesis and fundaments, homeopathic dynamization, and finish with notes for studying resonance and oscillating systems. Introduction A. In homeopathy, there is a mystery. For people who are easily fascinated by the mystery, there is an immediate attraction to homeopathy. Human beings are attracted by situations that challenge their understanding, in an incessant search for more knowledge. When this overwhelming need for knowledge is joined by the overwhelming survival instinct in the face of the oppression of the disease, we arrive at the impulse that launches man into the direction of conquest of health, of overcoming the limitations imposed by suffering. It is, therefore, man's destiny to evolve through the means that allow him to reach a full human condition. The themes addressed in this work are the result of synthesis aimed at during the scientific methodology classes at the 80th Homeopathy Training Course at the HHP, Associação de Homeopatia de Pernambuco, in Recife during the years of 1994 and 1995. According to the system concepts developed in some of the classes, we chose to call this synthesis a simple formulation of output model. Recife, September 11, 1994. 5. Homeopathy establishes a curious approach to the human organism, hitherto not foreseen by academics. The origin of homeopathic principles goes back to the teachings of Hippocrates, but as a fully structured treatment system, it was established by Dr. Samuel Hahnemann at the end of the 18th century. Although much opposed by this medical system of the time, homeopathy expanded rapidly in the following century. In countries like the United States, it was well accepted, and by the 20th century, 50% of doctors were homeopaths. With the expansion of medical technology in this century, homeopathy went through a latency period. Once this technological model has reached a point of exhaustion, homeopathy begins to be rediscovered. For homeopathy, the disease results from changes in pattern of energy or vital force that would be the substract of physical, emotional, and mental phenomena, being characteristic for each individual. The purpose of homeopathic therapy, as well as acupuncture, is to activate the patient's energy levels. The homeopathic approach is purely phenomenological, and unlike Chinese medicine, it does not have a detailed theory of energy patterns. For this reason, there has currently been a trend towards seeking to discover a theoretical and hypothetical formulation for this phenomena. Some relate to electromagnetic fields in the body, others to ion channels, etc. Introduction D. Quotations. It seeks to identify the fundamental level where the disease originates. There is a talk of vibration patterns that must be specific to each individual. Internal or external stimuli, called noxes, affect the level of vibration in the body, and that these changes generate physical, emotional, and mental symptoms. When the medicine is taken, its energy pattern resonates with the patient's energy pattern and thus induces the healing process. But what exactly resonates and how this resonance is caused is still not well understood. The absence of any scientific explanation for homeopathic therapy is one of the main reasons why it remains a highly controversial art of healing. A reference of the text in quotation marks the main point of Frisdorf, Capra. Photo of the class of 1995 and 1996 of the homeopathic training course, the 80th homeopathy training course in Pernambuco, Brazil. Primary hypothesis. The homeopathic medicine acts by resonance and would also be produced by resonance. Source: Homeopathy, Proposal for a Scientific Methodology. Transcript of the Scientific Methodology class. Rationale. First, a ray of light coming from the sun as it approaches the planet vertically and is attracted by its gravitational force undergoes an increase in frequency. There is a shift towards blue in its proximal part and towards red in its distal part. Source: A Brief History of Time, Stephen Hawking. Second, the Doppler effect is the blue and red deviation of the frequency of a moving object in relation to the references. More didactic source: The Expanding Universe in Carl Sagan's Cosmos theory. Third, at the subatomic level, due to the size of the atom and electron-like particles and the nucleus, what exists is empty space, and the impenetrability of matter is due to the interaction of electromagnetic forces. The solid aspect of objects is an illusion of our level of perception. What exists is vibrational energy on a scale of its own that gives reality a material aspect. Source: Albert Einstein equation. Fourth, with string theory, it is concluded that everything in the universe is vibration. Therefore, the relationship between people and objects and between them is not a physical relationship of ordinary understanding, but a relationship between vibrations. Particle physics shows that protons and neutrons are made of quarks, around 100, classified as fermions, bosons, hadrons, leptons, etc. The equations of these particles became more elegant when they started to be considered as vibrational strings that were synthesized in the M theory, brains and p-brains. Sources: Brian Jean's Elegant Universe and The Universe in a Nutshell by Stephen Hawking. Recent source: Nassim Harameyn's Connected Universe. The Nature of the Universe translates to Fractal Mathematics. Fifth, with Planck's discovery that the emission of energy is in the black body and in the universe happens according to a discrete function and not analog function, through the energy packages called quantum, it was demonstrated that the ultraviolet catastrophe did not happen. The observation remains that nature prefers to dispose of energy with increased frequency. Source: Bion at the Fifth Strength and UE Editora, UFPE 1902, Marcos Suassuna. Note Planck constant. H equals 6.624 times 1 split by 10 in power of 17. Sixth, If material perception is limited, if at the nano level everything is strings that vibrates, we could intuit that each being and each object would be an oscillating system with its own natural frequency. These oscillating systems would be the environment where an harmonic interaction would allow the manifestation of resonances. Source: the mutation point, Fritjof Capra. 7th, in systems theory, an inherent property would be that all its constituent elements in constant vibration would tend to increase their entropy. However, in its regulation, the system would seek to maintain its internal balance by creating an intrinsic rhythm, a timbre, which gives it an identity. If this rhythm were broken, the system would be destroyed, becoming self-disorganized. Source: general systems theory, Ludwig von Bettelaff. 80th, waves with greater energy potential, higher frequency, tend more easily to modular. Carrier waves transmitting their information to them, whether AM or FM, tend easily to modulate. Source: fundamentals of electronics, IUB. This added modulation would be in a forced orbital in a following modulation. When a new Doppler effect is offered, it would be released with potentiation, since nature discards energy with increased frequency. 9th, ultra-dilutions. A paradoxical effect would occur when allowing the solute substance to transmit its characteristics in advantage over the solvent. During vertical suction, the Doppler effect would occur equally in the solute and in the solvent. For example, if there were 3 molecules of NaCl and 100 molecules of H2O, transmitting its quality to NaCl3 to 100, transmitting quality from HO2 100 to 3. The most diluted substance would be in advantage. 10th, warnings about levels of magnitude. First, how long is a rope? Quantum mechanics scholars explain that if we increase an atom to the size of the solar system, a string would be the size of a tree. Second, let's consider that when we're doing the manual dynamization, we would be moving the glass vertically in a 50 centimeters path. What is the meaning of this? A hydrogen atom measures 53 picometers. An oxygen atom measures 60 picometers. A picometer is equal to 1000 nanometers, which in turn is equal to 0.0001 of the micro, and 1 micro equals 0.0001 of the millimeter. Third, 1 billion picometers equals 1 millimeter. Fourth, how many oxygen atoms would be aligned in 50 centimeters? Check the calculation below. Fifth, in a vertical suction, when we move the glass by 50 centimeters, that is, when we move a rope, it would be as if we were moving a tree through 8 billion solar systems. Sixth, Planck constant is h equals 6.6207 times 10 into the power of minus 34 m squared kilograms per second. Seventh, 10 in the power of minus 4 is equivalent to 100 to the power of minus 17. It means that a CH17 dynamization has already reached the level of energy packages, quantum, that is related to the finer levels at which events in the universe occur. Modulation of AM and FM waves. Modulation of AM. Wave A plus B equals AM. Modulation FM. Wave A plus B equals FM. Suctions and dynamization. When the contents of the test tube are stirred with the solute and the solvent, it is known at the chemical level that there are molecules and atoms. But transcending to the nano level, it is known that there are particles like quarks, and in this case it is considered that vibrational strings are being agitated. So what's going on? Following the figures below, it was sought as a didactic resource to represent particles, strings, next to each other in vertical displacement, orthogonal. When they travel through the curved space or gravity attraction, they would be experiencing an increase in frequency and an inherent Doppler effect. In other words, the wave has widened, the frequency has decreased, and the wave is accelerating ahead. Each particle of the solution would be undergoing identical behavior. Doppler effect on vertical suction. If this is what's happening, we could consider a very clear sequence of events. The poles of each particle with frequency acceleration would modulate the poles with lower frequency, transmitting the characteristics, the timbre, of each substance to the surrounding substances. A kind of energetic impregnation, where the vibration, the timbre, would occupy a kind of force orbital, with a tendency to pass on these characteristics in the next offer of Doppler effect. From this point of view, the subsequent reasoning would show how dilutions would be essential, that is, the necessary condition in this phenomenon. Modulation hypothesis in vertical suction. To understand the importance of dilutions, let's imagine some previous situations. First, situation in which we would be stirring only one substance, the solvent, without the medicine in the bottle. For example, only water. When all of its particles, when receiving the Doppler effect, changed frequency modulations, they would only transmit the timbre from water to water. Nothing would happen from that point of view. Second, situation in which we had water and added the NaCl medicine, for example. It would be 100 particles of water and just 3 of NaCl. Both substances would suffer the Doppler effect and transmit their tones. The 100 particles of water would transmit to you and to 3 NaCl, while the 3 NaCl particles would transmit to you and to 100 of water. The question is, who would be prevailing in the transfer of characteristics? Then a paradox would occur. Whoever was smaller would win, or whoever was more diluted. Third, the progressive dilution would select and sharpen the initial tone signal from the original substance, considering that with each energy transmission there would be an increase in frequency intensity. Concept of timbre. A synonym of oscillating system, sounding board. On the guitar, the whole structure is a resonance box, whose sound identifies the musical instrument. Another example is the bone cavities, maxillary, frontal, sphonethmoidal, masthemoidal, etc. of an individual's face and skull. It is a confirmation of the sound box that provides the timbre and makes each person have a unique voice. As much as it emits a low or high-pitched sound or amplified in speakers, the timbre will always identify you. Making an analogy, as it is above and below, it is possible that the frequency variations of a substance during the Doppler effect maintains its timbre. 4 principles of homeopathy. First, similar treatment. 2. Minimal doses. 3. Unique medicine. 4th, experimentation on sound men. This work tries to explain the second principle.
Alguns levantamentos de estudos técnicos relacionados ao assunto de ressonância. Conceitos e variáveis inerentes, pontos de ressonância, teoria geral dos sistemas cá embaixo. K0 é a frequência natural do sistema. Sistema osciladores, equações de ressonância, ressonância em várias especialidades de conhecimento, tipo elétrica, química, matemática, musical. Obrigado.